Welcome to What's Your Emotional Type and How Can I Double Your Auditions? The real class, 4 weeks, although we may add on another 5 weeks. It's going to depend on how this class goes tonight. So I have had lots of feedback from people about the emotional types. We did it as part of the pilot season prep last year, and how to be a motherfucking actor last year, and was that the year before? I love that class, how to be a motherfucking actor. But people were like, we only got 1 week of the emotional course. I was like, do you have a website? They were like, I don't care about my emotional court. I was like, there's so much more I can go out on. I was like, yes. I have not paid a big mouth Black woman in years. I go out because of my emotional type. And now it's starting to happen for my clients, some of who you will meet today during this class. But when I graduated from college, I got an MFA in acting from Rutgers. There was no Black woman that looked like me. There had never been a Black woman who looked like me. A Caribbean woman with a big mouth and a big forehead, kind of like African looking, but too light to really be African. They were like, I don't know. You're like, I don't know. You're too exotic. You don't look African American enough. I was like, seriously? And of course, I'm a hippie and ghetto. So they were just like, I just don't know. And I had no role models, right? I'm not gonna tell you how old I am, but there wasn't no Black women. Y'all got it good now. You can name 5 Black actresses that are working. I could not. Angela Bassett had done What's Love Got to Do with It, and that was it. There was nobody I could turn to and be like, how do you break into TV and film? What's our type? And then when I would go to auditions, guess what? I felt like a blonde white woman. There were 1,000 Black women in every single audition. We had nothing in common. Can you talk about racial profiling? A Black woman stole a purse. Okay, let's bring in every Black woman from 20 to 50. That's how auditions were going down for Black women when I was coming out. And all my school could say was, buy some hair. The very first job I booked was like, could you please take that fake weave shit out and let me see your hair? And will you wear afro? I was like, thank you, Jesus. But why did I spend $500? No one had a clue about what to do with me. And then I asked the 2 Black women that graduated from the program before me, and they were like, child, me neither. Let's just stay in theater. I was like, no. There is a way through this. There is a way. And mostly because I had done theater on the road for 6 years. I had done regional theater and off-Broadway for 7 years straight. I was always working. And then I got to the point where I was like, okay, I can't be really an ingenue who don't know nothing. You could only be Beneatha one time. And then there was nothing else. All the roles were starting to meld and turn into the same exact thing. The same thing. And I was like, well, they're not going to hire you to play the ghetto mama with the 15-year-old daughter, but like one time. Or are you going to play that same role for the rest of your life? And then I went in for an August Wilson audition. And I learned so much from this director, who I'm just going to remain nameless, but he changed my life. And I did it. He's like, you did a great job. I was like, okay. I was like, you're not going to give me a job. I thought, audition for you all the time. You never gave me a job. He was like, this woman is broke down and is going to accept less than she deserves. I don't believe that about you. And I cast what I believe a person knows. And I was like, it was very eye-opening for me. And I was like, he's tuning in to my spirit. He ain't just looking at every Black girl, right? He had very specific emotional type. This woman had something fragile and broken in her that she would accept a man who had abandoned her once before, came back, first thing he'll do is get in jail, and then abandon her again. Like, there was something about being abandoned that was comfortable for this woman that she would keep replaying that. And you don't have to find an actress who's like, I've been abandoned by my family. But a person who understands that fear in their lives, that terror of abandonment, and trying to get it right, get the love right the next time, that person can make that role sing. Sure. Could I play it? Sure. Could I make it sing? Like when you go into the audition, if your soul is in sync with that character, memorizing the lines is easy. Doing the audition, you ain't nervous. You got all the confidence in the world. And then when you're done, you're glad that you had the opportunity to do the audition And then you throw the paper out and you're done with it, you move on. Because you know you did what you needed to do. You came in and you laid your stamp on it. Why? Because your soul understands that character. So this director really opened up a window for me, you know, and he asked me about the kind of women I grew up with, and I was like, everybody is a gun-toting revolutionary, trying to kill somebody, chain smoking, alcohol drink. I mean, like, like gangsters. And he was like, you should write about that. He's like, because there's no women in the canon like that. You should write about them. You should write that story because you could play the fuck out of them. He's like, and I know women like that from my neighborhood, and those stories aren't being told. Now, because of Shonda, so many of our stories are being told. Because of Issa, so many of our stories are being told. And because of the internet, so many stories that never would have been told are being told. Fruit Bus Station, 12 Years a Slave, Get Out, right? The people who made those had web series. They were making short films and getting into Sundance, right? There were people who looked like me writing stories about people who look like them, who feel like them, who have similar experiences. There is actually now a Black hipster phenomenon. I was like, we didn't have that when I was growing up, but have there always been Black hippies? Of course, that ain't new, but nobody was writing it. We were writing a very limited experience. The ghetto mother and the cracky, and the baby boy who can join the gang. And that's it. And I was like, what about the rest of humanity who happens to be brown? We do a whole bunch of other things. We fall in love, you know, we resist love, we get in our own way, we live happily ever after, we have children. And I was like, okay. So I started writing. But as I started writing and getting my plays produced, and then I started producing film, I also saw around me that there was lots more work that was based on your soul. And that's because there's more of us writing, but the internet gave people a way to make their own work and get noticed by networks. Issa Rae got her own show. The rest is history. So this thing about the emotional chords, I studied a little bit in Meisner, that we had sort of major recurring chords. But then as I started becoming a writer, and I started looking at roles that appealed to me, and agents and managers kept asking me, who you like, who you like, who you like? And I'd be like, Maggie Smith in the prime of Miss Jean Brodie. And they were like, but you're Black. I was like, yes, but my soul understands her. I understand the bookish woman who fears that she'll never be loved. She uses her intellect to hide those fears and emotions, right? It was very starting, and I got my agent to start sending me out according to that. And that's when I started booking TV and film. That and when I started writing my own material, because the characters that I knew and loved did not exist. So today, I'm going to answer a bunch of these questions, because all of the questions, the troubles, or the problems that I got from the surveys, thank you so much for doing the surveys, over and 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 over again. How can I book bigger, more lucrative auditions? How can I get representation? How can I get an agent? And I was like, okay, so you want an agent, or you want a manager. An agent or a manager, their job is to get on the phone day after day after day after day and sell you to a casting director or a director. To sell you, just so you get the audition. Do you know what it is that you have to sell? Because if you're just selling your physical type, that's going to change every 10 years. If I'm an agent and I'm sitting across from you, and I'm now speaking as a producer and a playwright, I'm looking at an actor and I'm like, okay, they're going to look like that for 10 years. So we could write a couple of scripts, you know, that for this type and this age. But what happens when she doesn't look that way? And what if the movie doesn't get produced for 15 years from now? She won't be the same age anymore. I was like, the longevity of that career, if it's based on just how that person looks, they're not going to work for long. Right? That's why the sexy blonde cheerleaders, you know, come right out of the showcase, out of grad school, get signed. If they don't book in 6 months, they drop them because they were signed because of how they look. And as a person of color, if you think you have it hard, imagine being a blonde white woman. Okay? If I go into an audition for a Black woman, it's the same 400 Black actresses that I've been seeing for the last 5 years. If I were a blonde white woman and I went in for a call for a blonde white woman, 30-something blonde white woman, there would be 3 million women in that room. How do you stand apart?